Hi, this is Norma from Norma's Art Creations. You haven't seen me on YouTube since last March. I had a daughter that was ill and passed away in July. And so I just haven't really felt like being creative or actually sharing anything. Well, I had a great granddaughter named Shiloh that asked me why I wasn't on YouTube anymore and that she missed me, and that she was going to be my next subscriber. So it did motivate me to try to come back on YouTube and start painting again. And so tonight's result is my first YouTube since last year. Please enjoy. Tonight I'm going to have just a few colors, and I have this Lucas, and this is Phthalo blue. I have my white thick body Master's Touch. I have my metallic Deco Art metallic gold. Actually, this one might be copper. I'll look. I think this one, nope, I think this gold. And we're going to use one more color, and it's a teal, and it's acrylic paint. I'm going to be mixing them to the consistency of 1/4 paint, 2/3, 2/4 of medium Liquitex pouring medium. I'm going to try to put no Floetrol or a little bit of Floetrol in at the end. Floetrol dulls your painting, so I'm going to try to use just the pouring medium. It's a little bit more expensive, but I find that I like the finished product. So tonight we're going to paint over, like I said, we're going to paint over a painting I already started. And I'm going to use the Nate Bright technique with a little dome, plastic dome on it. Before I do anything, I'm checking to make sure it's level. I'm going to go ahead and wet the back of my canvas. I had already taped it and wetted it before, but I'm going to go ahead and wet it again, make it taut, because anytime you paint on a painting, you need to make sure that it's very taut. So make sure that you put the water on the back. And because I'm going to be using a turntable to start with, I want to make sure this is level before I start, because I'm going to be pulling it off that. So I'm going to be pulling it's level, and now I'm going to be pulling the turntable over. And the turntable is just my regular turntable that I've used. And Nate said to use a canvas that's the same size as your canvas. Well, I taped it to a board just so that I could have a little bit more strength. And when I put it on, I try to put it in the middle of my turntable. And then when I put this on, my canvas on top of it, it's got the push pins in and everything. Then I need to check to see if it's level again, because when we pour this, it's completely level. And when we pour this, we're going to need to make sure that it's level. So when I check both sides, this side over here is a little bit down. There we go. So you want to make sure it's level before you do anything. Now, what I'm going to do to start with is, normally I would have coated my edges, because I want to make sure that my edges get covered. And if you paint the edges, you can take and keep them. Now I'm going to move my turntable out of the picture just a few minutes, and we're going to layer a cup. And I'm going to layer not quite as big a cup as I did the other night, because I got it too full. So I've got the phthalo blue, and you can see the consistency It's pretty thin. It's not as thin as a Dutch pour, but it's a mound on a mound and it disappears real fast. So I'm going to use the phthalo blue, I'm using the white, I'm using the metallic gold, and the last one is Golden-Cobalt turquoise. So it's going to have just a little bit of that in there. So I'm going to start with the one that is going to be my base coat. So I'm starting with the blue. And I'm putting a pretty good amount in there. And then I'm going to come in with some white. Not a lot of white. I want it to feather. Then I'm going to come in with the gold. And very little gold, because gold does take over. Then I'm going to take and put a little bit of the teal, the cobalt teal. I can see some bubbles, so I'm going to have to be popping bubbles. Then I'm going to put a little bit more of the white. If I move this back a little bit, maybe you could see the pot a little bit better. Then I'm going to come with the blue. I'm going to put some teal in between. I'm just kind of mixing it up. I'm not layering them all the same. I'm going to put some gold. I'm going to put some white. I'm going to put some blue. And put some gold. I'm going to put some teal. And I'm going to put some white. And I'm only putting about half of this cup because the last time I poured this, I got way too much paint on here. So now I'm going to move all my colors out of the way. And I can see bubbles already in there. But I'm going to keep my phthalo blue, because my phthalo blue is going to be my base coat. So I'm pulling my painting back over, and hopefully I have it in the middle of the... I'm putting on my dome. I'm going to pour some of the cobalt blue, the starter, over the dome. And let it puddle out. Trying to kind of get it evenly around. Okay. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. I'm looking for bubbles. See a little bit of bubbles, so I'm going to torch it. Try to get the bubbles out before we start. I'm going to spin and move this out a little bit. See if I need to put a little bit more on. I think we're good. Last time I poured this, I put so much on that I ended up having to pour off because I had so much paint on there. I ended up having to pour off of the canvas. So I want to keep my pattern by keeping it on here. And I do see some bubbles in here, so I know that I'm going to end up having to, I'm going to try to torch it to begin with. But as Nate did, he started on the top, and then as the color came out, he would go to the side. Pour very try to pour as evenly as you can. Come down to the end of the dome, pouring over the dome and turning your canvas as you go. Try to turn as evenly as you can. I know I'm stopping and starting a little bit, but trying to come down to the edge of my dome. You can see the feathering effect come out. See lots of bubbles, so I'll be popping bubbles. Lots of pretty patterns in there. Hopefully I'll be able to keep them. And I do see that I'm coming a little bit more on this side over here. So I'll try to move that back into the center before we lift up the dome. Then as I finish, I'm going to come up on the dome to finish. Okay, isn't that pretty? Okay, now we're going to let that sit. I'm going to go ahead and move it a little bit, try to move it over to get some of it to be more in the center. So I'm kind of moving it out. You can see the gold mixing with the white. Gives it almost a peachy effect. And you can see the blue. I see a lot of bubbles, so I'm going to try to pop bubbles while it's sitting. You do let this sit for a little bit so that it can percolate a little bit. So it's a good time to pop bubbles. Okay, and as that's sitting, I'm going to go ahead and put some flow extender around the outside. And this flow extender is just a little teeny bit thinner than the paints that we used on the pour. Ooh, I really like this. I would definitely want to leave that negative space down there. want to just bring this back to the center. Love the colors. See a couple of bubbles that I need to pop. Doesn't seem level. Looks level over here. You can always put a popsicle stick or something. If you have it on level, what's going to happen is your painting is going to go right off the canvas. You need a little bit over there to go off because it's not covering it. Plus I want to get that corner off. A little bit more. Stretching it out, and I wanted to leave some negative space, so let's bring this back in. I'm losing my flower in the center. Let's get it back in. Check my edges here, see what they look like. Excuse me, with my cough. This one needs a little bit of blue on the corner. I'll just drizzle some over. And I check my edges now. That's very different. I lost a little bit of my flower by taking that side off. Got a lot of bubbles that I need to get out of there. And if you wanted to pronounce that this a little bit more, you could come in and take your stick and run some lines through it. Just lots of bubbles in here. Last night I had to turn off the video because I started coughing, so I didn't get to give you the wet results, but I did go ahead and tilt the canvas a lot more, and you can see that I tilted some of it almost off. Now, to get the effect where you're not seeing all the glare, I'm going to pick it up and show you. And then I'm going to bring it back down and take it across the canvas. There's lots of fingerlings that I really liked in this area right here, where it made it look like a flower, and that's what I was trying to achieve. And I love the colors of the gold, where the gold mixed with the white. I love some negative spaces. This almost looks like a vortex in the middle of it. Looks like the ocean to me. Trying to get that glare off. I like this painting enough that I will keep it. It's not perfect by any means, but I really like it. So I will try this technique again until I can perfect it. Just remember, if I could do this, you can do it.